Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show. Once again, profiling and featuring some of the global personalities and creators and authors that are changing and bringing more color and more inspiration to our lives at the moment, especially with all the challenges that we're facing and opportunities. We are in a world that I think the scope of imagination is more important than ever, even if technology sometimes might make us feel a bit dizzy, a bit disruptive. This series, as usual, are powered by citiesabc.com, businessabc.org, and as well with the sportsabc.org that will be launching very soon. So today I'm quite excited to speak with a fantastic creator that I knew more actually than I know about it, but is a creator that I think you will love to see her work because it speaks much more than my words can ever achieve that. So I welcome to our series Christy Lee Rogers. So Christy is a fine art and a creator, photographer, and that is an iconic personality for work and an artwork that comprehends a lot of creativity. She is as well a specialist in underwater photography. She was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, so she has a very beautiful background. And the work has been an artistic career that has pushed forward the boundaries of photography and a lot of different things, from color usage to underwater and a lot of different things. And the work has been taking her to some of the most renowned art galleries and art spaces in the world, from London to Shanghai and Paris. Recently, and of course will be a focus of this interview, Christy Lee Rogers has collaborated with Disney and the director James Cameron, that doesn't need too much presentation, on a series that are astonishing called Keep Our Oceans Amazing. There is a campaign to support the Avatar, The Way of the Water film, that stars Zoe Saldaña, Sigourney Weaver, and Kate Winslet. These are amazing pictures we're going to be displaying as we speak with Christy, and we're going to be talking about her artwork and all the different areas that she's been achieving. In her career, she's been featured in some of the most important photography and magazines in the world, from Vogue to Harper's Bazaar, Art China, Elle Decoration, Global Times, The Independent, Casa Vogue, Photo Technique, Photo Korea, and much more. And she has been, of course, collaborating with some of the biggest brands in the world, the likes of Apple and Deutsche Grammophon. In terms of the multiple accolades and awards that Christy has been receiving, we can highlight the Open Photographer of the Year title from the Sony World Photography Awards in 2018, Global Awards, and a lot of different areas. Christy's art has been featured on several album covers, including Orseography for the 80s band Wang Shang, and their images are selected by a lot of different multiple events and art organizations around the world. So as a personality, she's been always looking at the different areas of putting her artistic expression, and of course putting a lot of fantastic capacities in terms of visual, but as well in terms of technology and the way she puts photography with underwater and the relationship with the storytelling with the ocean. So welcome to the series.
Thank you so much. So good to be here.
My pleasure. And I'm honored with your creativity and a lot of different things you've been doing. So your work is really astonishing and people can see it in a lot of different places. But let's start a bit of the basis. So how did you start your career, a bit of your education, what made you focus in art and photography, and as well your passion for the oceans?
Yeah, so I grew up in Hawaii. I studied filmmaking, but I was an artist very young, doing poetry and acting. And, I didn't really find my way into photography until my 30s, actually. And once I did find the water, it was just sort of like this natural progression of, experimenting with the water. I have a profound love of water. I didn't really know it growing up in Hawaii, but I needed it and I wanted to be around it all the time. It was just really rejuvenating and refreshing. So that was kind of how I started with the water. And then I just started to use it as a creative source, and how can I bend things? How can I move things with water? And it's just sort of progressed from there. I never thought of myself as being an underwater photographer. I was just an artist and I was using a tool to say something that I wanted to say. that was sort of trapped inside of me for a really long time. It's just this passion that needed to come out through the images, and I couldn't say it with words. So it was just kind of a relief when I found the water, because I could bend reality. I could create things that weren't actually there, so much more magical. That's where my imagination was. So it was kind of a relief to find the water and use that as a resource and a tool to create these images. And I actually finally felt like I was in communication with people. People really got the message, and I didn't have to say it. It was just sort of there in the image. So that's how I
Yeah.
started.
Like you mentioned, you started a bit late as a photographer, but you were always a creative mind and a lot of different things. So can you tell us a bit the moment where you find out, first of all, your connection, where you put all your talent in one art that you master in a fantastic way, but a bit of that history. I always like to look at history. I don't know if someone that influenced you, an influence, a mentor, or a family member, or someone that appeared on some occasion.
Well, I was taking photographs when I was really young, but I was just doing it for fun. So my boyfriend at the time in high school gave me a camera that he found at a garage sales, 35 millimeter, of course. And then I was also in photography classes and film classes in high school. So it was like the first time that I actually was really, really interested in school, getting into the dark room. And, that's back in the days when you had the dark room and you had to, you had your hour that you could go in, and I would just mass produce images in there. And that was really when I started to love it, but I didn't really know how I was going to use it. I was capturing reality. So then I was still taking photographs throughout those years, but I was never really satisfied. So I put them away. I actually threw away a lot of photographs. I threw away a lot of negatives. I never really respected them because I just didn't feel like they were something I wanted to share, So I was just really secretive for a long time. And then as soon as I found the water, that's when I sort of went, okay, I really like this. I'm really obsessed, and then I just sort of went crazy. And I was shooting at night because I was working during the day, and then I would shoot at night, and I'm just sort of a night owl. So that's kind of how the style started. I needed these really harsh lights to capture my subjects underwater. And yeah, I mean, it was just very natural, the whole thing.
Well, that's amazing. So photographing in the water is not easy. There's a lot of considerations, technical considerations, light, and the air photography has an amazing capacity of putting colors, very strong colors with very strong movement and a lot of different things. So of course you build your own style, which is right now world famous. But how did you build, and especially how you look at all these technical parts of light and movement and water and all the crossover between all these different things?
Well, I mean, I did study photography a little bit and filmmaking, but I really was not a professional when I first started. So I had to experiment. And I think that was really good for me because I made a lot of mistakes. The lighting was all incorrect. The camera was giving me messages that the light's wrong. And so it was just like a trial and error, sort of a science experiment. So okay, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if the body is this far away from the light and this far away from the light? So it was a lot of patience building up the style. And maybe a lot of people would have stopped because the first images were just terrible. You're just thinking this is not working. This is just a horrible mess because like you said, the water is so difficult. It's the fabrics are moving in front of it. And if they move too far away from the light, then you don't capture their face, or you've got the bubbles. And I think that that's what I liked. I liked the challenge. That's what was sort of pushing me forward. I almost kind of needed that challenge to go, okay, let me see what I can capture here. So that was part of the learning curve for me was, where do I put these lights? What kind of lights am I going to use? So my whole style was really just experimental. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I think those mistakes led to where I'm at today, and that the style became different. It wasn't what everybody was doing, photographing underwater where the light's perfect. The light was, it was temperamental. So
That's the way it worked. And it's amazing. And as well, one of the things that I love is the sense of color and the sense of, as well, voluptuous movement. So a lot of these things remind a lot of the paintings of it reminds a lot of painting. And you can go to Rubens and a lot of other painters that actually try some of these things, especially with color and light. So there's a sense of photography and painting. Is something that you've been studying? Is something you've been exploring, or is more instinct? I don't know if you want to share something with the audience about that.
Yeah, I really think it's instinct because I grew up in Hawaii, so we didn't have a lot of museums to go to. And yeah, we studied a little bit of art, but we were surfing and boogie boarding and it was more of that kind of a thing. But I just feel like it was always just part of who I was. Very dramatic, very emotional, and then of course, like I said, I like the nighttime. So I'm a night owl. I love working at night. I just have the music on and I just kind of let go. So that started the crazy lighting. Well, if I'm going to shoot at night and it's pitch black outside, I'm going to need some really harsh lights. And I started not having any money, so I couldn't rent these amazing lights. So I got these really cheapy, you know, sometimes I would go to Home Depot and get lights, and I would just, and it was this harsh, very harsh light that started to kind of become my style, and all like, you'd see this, everything would be illuminated right here. And then the shadows would just drop off into the blackness of the night. And I started to really like that, because it was expressing the emotions that I, had inside of me, which is, I think, part of these movements during the Renaissance and the Baroque. It was just a really vulnerable time. And there was all this emotion and this like uplifting hope, I think, in those paintings. And I love that, now that when I look at them, especially Rubens is one of my favorite, because of the movement and the drama. Like it's just, he's captured this moment in time, so that's what I've kind of grown into, is just letting the individuals underwater move. So you capture this just, emotional moment in their experience, which is very vulnerable underwater. So, and then you were talking about colors. So when you've got these harsh lights underwater, you're going to just get these really amazing pops of color. If I'm using the right fabrics, the light is just sort of shining through there and just illuminating everything. And I do love color. I really do.
Oh, that's really very special. This sense of, I would say that is a chiaroscuro postmodernist, but with a lot of the photography that of course create your style. So you've been building a lot of solutions in terms of the way you scale both your work, both with the technical part of photography, but then working with global personalities, actors, and even musicians and so forth. So tell us a bit about how that started as well, because you bring them, it's not a comfort zone, because you bring them to water, they have to go into the water, and this is quite a lot of consuming, because you go in the water, probably in the night is cold, there's a lot of different things, a bit of the technical parts that are part of that presence.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I always started out photographing real people. I liked that they were raw and themselves, and they would bring with them their vulnerabilities and their whole experience in life. And so I always gravitated toward, creative people. So it would be musicians and actors, and they are just so willing to be there in the moment and to experience things and to push through, like to push through the difficulties. The actors, I mean, I lived in Los Angeles for a long time, so I loved working with actors because they love that challenge. They love to be kind of pushed into that dark area and have to kind of fight out of it. So that was always kind of where I found myself, as working with, dancers, musicians, actors. So that was kind of natural to kind of go there. And then of course with Avatar, The Way of Water, they had all this experience already underwater and diving and holding their breath for a really long time. So, they already had that they could bring to the table, right? But of course, like you said, it's difficult underwater. You're pushing through barriers, and water's going in your nose, and nothing is comfortable. You're not comfortable, and you have to look beautiful. And so, but I think that's what they love, and that's what I love, the challenge.
So you mentioned, of course, the Avatar and the series of beautiful pictures that we show as we speak here. So how did it come, this venture? Because it's, first of all, fantastic. Congratulations for the
Yeah.
final work, which is amazing. But it's quite a big production that comprehends, of course, three of the most beautiful and actually most famous actresses in the world. But as well, it's under the global Keep Our Oceans Amazing campaign that James Cameron Disney commissioned for you. So tell us a bit about how this started and what it consists for people that never heard. And I'm sure we're going to promote it whatever our channels reach.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I mean, we are raising the money. 100% of the profits are going to the Nature Conservancy for the oceans. But the way it started was James Cameron had wanted to commission me to do an image for his wife originally. And we talked about the muses. And he ended up buying a piece of my art, very, very large piece of artwork from my muses collection, which I'd already photographed. And then we sort of kept in touch, and we had a conversation about shooting underwater because he had just finished shooting Avatar: The Way of Water, and we talked about the difficulties, of course, right? And we both have very different styles. I'm very experimental, and so we just talked about the challenges, and it was great to just have that, understanding that, oh yeah, this is crazy. I don't think people understand what you're up against down there. So then, we kept in touch, and then the idea came up with my art rep Fraser. We should do some images, and raise money for the oceans. And so Jim loved that idea. And then we got connected with Disney, and then we started to get into pre-production and scheduling. And, I was sort of given this creative freedom. And this is, before Avatar: The Way of Water came out. So I'd already started production, but I was given this freedom, to just create in my style, basically something that would communicate Avatar, right? So that was a challenge because you're dealing with all these like luminescent colors. So, that was the first part, was researching how am I going to get these pops of colors underwater. But I was really excited. I just felt like it was something kind of like that perfect thing that matched up with me and what I could do. And that's how it started, and then now we are, we've released the images, and there's still a second phase where they'll be up on an island in Sweden outdoors, and there's some ocean scientists involved with that. And there's many other things, just to get them out into the world. But we are raising money for the Nature Conservancy, and they have an amazing, plan for the oceans to just, not just the oceans, but all of the creatures that live in the oceans. And so this is something that I'm really passionate about, and Jim is really passionate about. So we just thought, well, let's just do something instead of just talking about it all the time. Let's just do it, So here we are.
The results are astonishing. So one of the things I love, one of your quotes about your passion for the water as a medium and as a passion, but as well some of the colors. So especially in the case of the Avatar series, there's a very strong blues that resulting in images that showcase a bit of 16th century and 17th century art and painting. But as well, there's a lighting. I will just quote right now there's a lighting that is traveling slower in the water than it is in the air. And so I'm able to get this softness, this painterly feel, if I capture the image precisely in tune with the movements. So can you elaborate a bit on this? Because it's very beautiful, but I would like to, especially for the audience that is more creative.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize, but I'm using physics when I'm shooting. So I'm shooting from outside of the water and into the water, which is very different. And it was something that I've done both, right? But what I did find out is that light travels slower in the water than it does in the air because water's more dense. So you're going to get this bending or refraction happening. So that's where we get this painterly like image, is there's just a little bit of bending. So it's not very precise. You're going to get, if I, set everything on my camera correctly and the lighting is correct and all of the elements are correct, we get this really slight bending, which is really beautiful. Sometimes you get a lot of bending or too much bending. And I've used that as well, but it's basic physics, refraction. I don't know if you've ever been swimming in the pool and you drop something and you got to pick it up and it's actually over there and you think it's over here because your eye is seeing it differently. So that's sort of what I've been using. And that's really necessary because I don't want to see everything so clearly. I want to have that softness that you get in a painting. And that's been my style and what I've used. And, it's a fine tuning. It's a lot of mistakes to get that right image.
So there's one quote, another quote from you. This is an interview you did at the Guardian that I like, especially the relationship with water. Water is life-giving, nurturing, rejuvenating, and without it, we could not survive. So this passion of the water, of course, you grew up in Hawaii. That is one of the beautiful places in the planet, and the water is very present. But so this relationship with water, of course, James Cameron has been probably the most defensive of the oceans, or one of the most vocal defenses of the oceans. So tell us how you coordinate this with the creative part, but as well the passion for the water.
Yeah, it's funny because I never really realized how much I love the water, and until people started asking me about it. But I always just had a respect for water. I think growing up in Hawaii too, it's like you'd sit on the beach and you'd watch the waves because they're very powerful, and if you don't understand where things are happening, you're going to get crushed. And I have been crushed by the waves, and so there's this power to water. I mean, it's life-giving and it's like nurturing and all these things, but it will take your life in a moment. It's so dangerous, and so you're vulnerable to this element. I mean, you wouldn't have life on this planet without water. The body is made up mostly of water. So I just started to realize that people were not respecting the water as much as I wanted them to respect the water. And it's sort of this being, almost if it was its own being, and because it's life, it is life, we're not the only life, and you've got, all this happening around us, and we need it so badly, and we need fresh water, we need clean water, we need clean oceans because we rely on the oceans for our oxygen supply. Most of the oxygen from the planet is coming from kelp. So these are things I just really started to go, wow, I just, I can't believe, I'd see plastics on the beach, or I'd see the water being so dirty and these animals showing up with tumors, turtles. And it just started to kind of, get to me what was happening here. And so I just, I can't really explain it in words, but I'm just really passionate about it. I see how much we need water on this planet, And so that's how it all came together. It's just this, inside kind of passion that, yeah.
So continuing on this part of the production, I'm of course this channel touches a lot of technology and creative work. So you work, of course, with three of the most famous actresses in the world, actresses in this case. So what was that to work with them? Of course, all of them have a lot of experience in the water because they all went through the Avatar production film. But this part of putting them as almost like, I would say, one of the angels in the water, but at the same time building a kind of another representation of them in photography that of course, the photos are large and very impactful when you see it in a gallery, but as well even in devices and so forth. So tell us about that experience of working with the actors in particular.
I mean, it was quite an honor because in Avatar, you always see their avatar faces. So I had this mission to bring those things together. So you've got Avatar, but then I want to see their faces and I want to show their beauty and that connection, between them and the real world and their characters in Avatar. So that in itself was an honor to work with them. I mean, they're very professional and they know what they're doing. And we had, Kurt Crack is the diver that worked with them on Avatar. He was there helping them. So we had a really great team. There was definitely some pressure, because there's time constraints. So, you don't have all the time that I would have maybe with somebody that I can just say, hey, show up tomorrow. Let's do this again. You have to get it right. So we also wanted to make sure that the pools were heated correctly to the body temperature. So there were all these little challenges. Like I really wanted to make it very comfortable for them so that they didn't have to go through the things that some of my other models have to go through, which is cold water, cold nights. So we heated everything and it's, it still wasn't warm enough. We still wanted it to, you have to get it super, super warm in there so that you can stay in for hours. And then I traveled to London to shoot Kate Winslet. So, we did. And then we went to Los Angeles to shoot with Zoe and Sigourney. So it was great to be able to have these different experiences. Each actress has their own, their own way of being underwater. And I mean, I think that's what's so fascinating about everybody that I shoot is like they all bring their own message and their own, that their life into the images. So it was fun. It was fun. It was a challenge though, I have to say. I mean, I think they would all agree it's a challenge.
And so one of the things that, of course, we are right now, of course, you're dealing with photography, highly technical, the water, the elements, nature. And at the moment, of course, there's all these nuances in terms of AI, and how AI is going to be, in one end, enhancing our capacities, but in other ways, creating a lot of challenges. So as a creator that has this impact, especially your work, in some ways it looks like taking out of a dream. So it's a dreaming in a good way, not in the dysfunctional dream, because you can go into some nightmares, but this is a very beautiful dream. But how do you work, or how do you cope right now with the narratives that are coming? Because when I see your image, the first question I ask before I start researching was this done with AI? Is this done with a lot of post-production? But then I start researching. It's amazing because you did it purely with your skill sets and your network. So I want to touch, how do you see this part of your traditional work, and as well, not traditional, but the kind of artwork that comes out of your experience and your art, and everything that is happening right now around AI and a lot of the narratives that are questioning us, and as well our creativity.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject for sure. And, it makes me want to release some images and show the set and show like, this is actually done underwater, because it's a lot of work. I mean, it was years of work to plan and get the costumes. So it's an interesting thing that you could type in a couple words and then create an image and have that. But, honestly, I mean, it does upset me a little bit and I'm not so happy about it. But I think in the end, the artist puts the life into the artwork, like that piece, becomes alive because the artist puts a message in it. And there's a feeling, there's an emotion beyond the physical realm, if you know what I mean. And so I don't think AI will ever be able to take that away. You might get some flashy images and that, but you won't feel anything, you won't feel like if you go into a museum and you look at the statue of David, you know what I mean? You just feel the life that's there. It's just coming out of the statue. It's alive. So, I mean, I am, upset about some of it. But I have to just know that in the end, I think maybe we'll go through this phase, right? Everybody's starting to get excited about it, but you got to put that passion and that life into the artwork. That's what makes it. That's everything. Because there are millions of pretty images out there, but it's really the message and the communication. And it's like a wavelength that the other person understands.
I subscribe with you, but it's, in my case, sometimes my challenge is that at the moment I'm already doing the two things as a creator and as a digital personality, is we can actually put the two things together and make this work for us, not the other way. But well, it's a long discussion. So I want to come back to, and I don't know how you feel that, but I definitely at the moment, there's a lot of scary narratives, but I try to focus more on the, like you said, the creativity part that can come out of this, and the imagination. So continue on that. So you've been doing amazing different parts of your work. So tell us, I know that there's a second stage that you just mentioned before that you are working on this series. Can you tell us a bit about that? So for people listening to us, this is the series, The Way of the Water. That is with the stars of the Avatar, especially the three ladies that are the main stars. But you said that there's a second stage. I don't know if you can announce some of the things that is coming.
No, I mean, it's just, it's actually just some projects to get the works out to the public, out in public spaces. So one of them is that I can say is that we're going to be placing the artworks on this island in Sweden, which is a lighthouse and a hotel called Paternoster. And I'm also doing an exhibition there. But when you come up on the boat to the dock, those pieces will be outside. So everything is outside. It's done all in a green way. all with recycled materials, and they're very much into nature, and they have some scientists involved and doing research on the sea and the oceans. So it's just a way to kind of get the audience more involved and to display the works. And so there are some things like that that are happening, because we did first release the images and they were just put out on the internet, and now there'll be some other fun ways to actually view them in person. And of course, we have some work to do to raise this money for the ocean. So we're excited to just get them out to the public all over the world.
So tell us about the part of raising the money for the missions and the focus. I think our audience, I'm sure at least some of them might be interested to engage.
That was our main focus, was like how we can use art. How can we use this art to bring awareness to the conditions of the ocean and all of the beautiful sea life, and I think Jim and I really know what's happening, with some of these, like, extinction of certain sea creatures, and like the tumors and these little microplastics that end up in the fishes that then we are eating. And it's like a whole cycle, so the Nature Conservancy is doing a lot of things to protect certain parts of the oceans, and their mission is over a 10-year period, to protect a certain percentage of sea life and the ocean. So they're like one of the biggest out there. So it's just great to team up with them. And I actually met with somebody here from TNC locally in Tennessee, Nashville, where I'm at, and they have chapters everywhere, and they have programs that they're doing. And we have issues here with the streams, which is our main water sources here in Nashville. And we have, mussels that are growing in the streams that need to be protected. And then we've got this big population growth, and so there's so many issues that are at play. And so I think the Nature Conservancy is just a great organization because they've got their hands everywhere to make a really big impact.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's really very special. So whatever we can promote here, feel free. But it's area that is very important for me. I think it's, like you said, this relationship with nature, and especially the oceans, is a critical element. So some of the work that you continue doing. So at the moment, besides the way of the water, what other things you want to highlight, especially in terms of where people can find your work, but as well some of the new initiatives you're doing that you can share with our audience?
The recent collection that I released was called Luminescence, and that was my experiments before I started The Way of Water, is with flashlights underwater. So you've got these really amazing pops of light, and my fascination with wavelengths and the electromagnetic spectrum, which I'm kind of obsessed about. So I, wanted to show the light surrounding being that maybe sometimes it's not visible, but and I can see behind your head, you've got that light on your screen. But so that's the newest collection. And some of those will be on display as well on the island in Sweden. So we're doing a very big exhibition over the summer with that. And then I'm going to be starting a new collection. So I'm actually traveling to Hawaii next week to start a new collection, which I'm still, the ideas are still coming, but there'll be a lot of moving images. And then I actually have a show at the Parthenon Museum here in Nashville. So that's like a Muses-inspired, Greek Muses-inspired show. But, I just feel like I still want to work with the water. I keep thinking someday I'll move on to something else, but I am really still inspired by the water. There's all these stories I want to tell. And, now with the war happening, and, I just, again, I get so frustrated with the constant war. So there might be a little message in there, because I always like to kind of dive in to the dark stuff, but then bring us out the other end into the hope, and, Rubens has a lot of war scenes, right? So I've just been really inspired by that. Like, how do I, redirect people? So yeah, there's a lot going on in my head. I mean, I have my notebooks on the table, and I'm constantly writing in there. Recently, of course, I got inspired by Dune, the second Dune movie.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Yeah.
Which is, crazy war as well. But there's just, the visuals are very inspiring in there as well. So
no, it's amazing. Well, I want to, so for people listening to us, so I think we're going to put all the links to you, but tell us a bit where they can find your work, where they can buy it, where they can engage with you, and know more about you for the ones that know a bit less, because of course we'll put all these links, but I want to have it from you.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go to Christy Lee Rogers.com/avatar, that's where you can find the avatar images. And we're selling different ranges of prints, which will all go to the Nature Conservancy. So you get something back for it as well. And then, of course, my website and my social media is also just Christy Lee Rogers. But yeah, your support would be amazing. We just want to we want to help in any way we can. And we're going to be doing more things. Like I'll be doing something also in Hawaii with the TNC, the Nature Conservancy there as well. So I'll be updating on social media as soon as we get those things all in order. So
first of all, congratulations. It's been an honor to have you here. I hope to see the new pieces, and probably I'll buy some of them myself. It's really amazing what you achieved. And I would love to just congratulate all your amazing body of work that is comprehensive, and we'll share all of this with our audience. So thank you so much, Christy.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.